Beautiful. Well, it's so lovely to welcome everyone here today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We'll start with some quick introductions. My name is Stuart McPherson. I'm the project leader of Darwin200. We have from the beautiful tour ship Oosterschelde side, Elvira, who's on screen currently. Perhaps Elvira would like to say a word or two about her role.
Yeah, well, welcome everyone. I am from the office of the Oosterschelde. I work in there for 11 years already. And well, maybe we have contact per email or on the phone, or maybe we will have contact. But well, we look forward to organizing this great trip with you guys.
Wonderful. I think we also have the equally wonderful Gerben on board, if we can change the screen.
Good evening. Okay. Thank you, Stu. Good evening. I'm Gerben. I'm one of the captains of Oosterschelde. I'm also the manager of the company, and I do this for quite a long time. It is a good thing that it's not our first trip around the world, or not actually around, but a far trip. So we know what we're doing. I'm actually getting excited every day a little bit more, because for us, the preparations have already started. So I will tell a little bit more about that later, perhaps, but this is enough about me, I think.
Perfect. I think we also have the wonderful Matthias as well on the call.
I'm Matthias. I'm also working in the office, the newest member of the team, comparing to Gerben's 30 years or Elvira's 12 years. I'm a newbie, but sneezing, I suppose. No, but on the contrary, I can say that I've been on board for well, throughout my life. So, well, if you send us an email or give us a call, then it's most likely that you will, well, speak to Elvira or myself. And I'm really excited about this project and, well, to welcome you on board soon.
Oh, that's great. And myself, my name's, as said earlier, Stuart McPherson. I'm the project leader of the Darwin200 side, so the project that we can be undertaking during the Global Voyage. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you here this evening. And obviously today's an opportunity to have a general exchange of questions and answers with the team. We've prepared a few different elements. I've prepared a short review of the project, so everyone's aware of why we're doing this and what we're undertaking during the voyage. I believe Gerben's got a section to give an overview of as well. And then I've prepared a little PowerPoint. In two previous sessions, we've done 8 voyage legs in each session, giving a little overview of some of the highlights. And so I've prepared 17 to 24 to showcase some of the amazing sites, both along the sailing part of the voyage leg, and obviously when you get there as well, what you can see at the destinations. So should we start? I'll start with a bit of an overview of the project and then hand over to Gerben. Then we'll go to the voyage legs, if that's okay with everyone. But if it's okay, I'll just share my screen. Oh,
I have to, yes, sorry.
Sorry, thanks. Oh, no, that's okay. Thanks so much.
You'll be able to do that now.
Beautiful. Thank you very, very much. That's wonderful. All righty. So with a bit of luck, hopefully you can see my little screen. Oh, sorry, actually, this one here. Can you see that okay? Is that coming through?
Yes, it's coming through.
Beautiful. Okay. So in approximately 4 minutes, this is an overview of the project. So without exaggeration, it has been 10 years work bringing this project to fruition. In terms of work and organization in the last 3.5 years. But as I'm sure you're aware, it's called Darwin200. And basically our goal, we've got 3 clear goals. The first of which is to select and train and empower the world's very brightest young conservation leaders. These young people were called Darwin leaders. We're bringing them to the ports in groups of 4 to 6, the ports which Charles Darwin made. sorry, and then they make, or perhaps I might be able to mute a few people. Thanks. And basically, we're bringing them to the ports where Charles Darwin made landfall, and they're undertaking a package of activities in partnership with incredible NGO partners to basically train their skills to go back to their home countries with real experience to help undertake amazing conservation projects. The next element, in brief, is called the world's most exciting classroom. Our goal is to engage millions and millions of young people as the ship goes around the world through 100 events, one every week, for 100 weeks over the 2 years of the voyage. And last but not least, a series of really exciting research projects with great citizen science outreach activities which they can take part in and be involved in. We're incredibly honoured to have three of simply the most amazing conservationists alive literally today. Dr. Jane Goodall, who you might know for her inspiring work on chimpanzees and Gombe in what's now Tanzania, but also her Roots and Shoots programs that are in about 65 countries with tens of millions of young people. The equally amazing Dr. Sylvia Earle, who set up Mission Blue and is focused on marine conservation right the way around the globe. And she's got a series of hope spots and engagement with tens of millions of young people as well. And the last but not least, equally wonderful, Dr. Sarah Darwin, one of Charles Darwin's great granddaughters, who's a very established zoologist and naturalist in her own right. And so we're really honoured to be working with her as well. So we designed the Darwin200 Global Voyage. It's a simplified version, the voyage of the Beagle, the ship which Charles Darwin went on. We had to simplify it for practical reasons. It took the Beagle 5 years to undertake their voyage, mainly because they backtracked multiple times. Gerben very kindly worked out many of the very complex factors in which we had to determine this voyage, the weather, the seasons, and so forth. And so we have simplified it a little bit. The Beagle went multiple times up the coast of South America, and it did actually cross the Indian Ocean. That's one significant change that we've adjusted. It would have added many months due to the seasonality and considerable cost to go across the Indian Ocean. And Darwin only really stopped very briefly in Cocos Keeling and Mauritius. So we have simplified that element, and we're going back under Cape Horn. But other than that, every single port that Darwin went to, every single major port we're going to, and every single major stop that he made that we're making as well. Obviously, the story of HMS Beagle is simply one of the greatest natural history stories of all time. So we really hope you can be part of this global voyage. We're incredibly fortunate and happy to say about 80% of the legs have gone, but there's a few limited places on about 12 legs left. So please, if you want to come, this is your chance. Especially the South American legs are going to be amazing. All of the legs are going to be amazing, but the South American ones in particular have a particular connection to Darwin's work. So that's a super quick overview. I've actually got a recording of about a 2-hour, much more detailed presentation on the Darwin200 YouTube channel if you want to see it, and it's also on the website. But of course, I'm here to answer any questions about the project as well. So that's a quick overview. Just very quickly to show you what we have done so far. So in relation to Object 1, we undertook two test voyages. We sailed a different ship called Pelican of London around the UK twice, once in 2020, once in 2021, as a test voyage to see what works and what doesn't, and brought on about 80 young people to experiment with those different systems. Darwin leaders that we're selecting for the global voyage, we're selecting one from each of 200 countries and states around the world. And again, we're bringing them into the ports, not on the sailing legs, the ports where Charles Darwin made landfall. But basically, they undertake an incredible package of activities with those NGO partners to help train them to become the elite conservationists in the world of tomorrow. And that's intended to be the living legacy of the project. So these 200 elite decision makers in the world of tomorrow go back to their countries and help drive change. The most exciting classroom element. So every single week for 100 weeks, we've got planned with many partners, live experiments, essay competitions, research activities, interviews, weekly nature hours, and daily documentaries. We're about to start 10 test examples of these, which we welcome you to be a part of from September onwards. And I'll do a mail out shortly concerning those 10 test ones. We did them during the test voyages and beamed live via satellite from all kinds of amazing locations, including Bass Rock, straight to schools around the globe. We had literally thousands of schools take part. So it was really, really wonderful. And this was just a taste of what we're planning, from the Galapagos to Tahiti and beyond. The goal is to beam conservationists live into schools to talk about their work and their projects and their activities and so forth. And then last but not least, the 5 research projects that I mentioned. These are deliberately a little more fluid at this time. We're deliberately finalizing these for lots of different factors, but we're basically developing a global coral reef survey, a habitat survey, a global plastic trawl and garbology study, and a whale and dolphin survey, a pollution solution study as well with PhD students. And I should mention we've allocated in our budget funding for making the whole project twice over carbon neutral. So our goal is to plant several thousand trees in the Atlantic rainforest of Brazil, which Darwin visited but has since been wiped out. So we're ready and prepared for the global voyage, and in less than 1 year, sounds like a long time, but less than 1 year, we'll be on our way. So it's incredible how fast this is going to come around. I'll do a few quick photos of the beautiful Oosterschelde here. So we really, really hope you'll be part of this journey, and we really, really look forward to answering any questions concerning the voyage. So I'll hand over to the wonderful Gerben now, and there's our web link to sign up. So thank you so much for listening. Over to Gerben.
Okay, thank you, Stu. I was thinking, what should I say today? Because in the previous meeting Q&A sessions, I told something about the history of the ship, which is one of the, let's say, unique points of this vessel. There's still quite a few people, quite a few ships around the world sailing around, but there's very, very few truly historic ships. So a project like this, sailing an old route from an old famous ship and an even more famous man, is really nice to be to do that with a historic ship like Oosterschelde. On the other hand, there is a lot of information about that already said. There is a lot of information about the history of the ship to be found on our website, and if you're really interested, there's a book we can tell you some. So I thought maybe I can say a little bit about the preparations. When I introduced myself, I said for us these have started already, and as we speak at this very moment, we are actually taking off the rigging of the Oosterschelde. I don't know, I tried to share my screen. I don't know if you see the ship there, but this 3-masted vessel, we have 3 masts, 3 top masts. That's the upper part of each mast. There's these parts. There's the bowsprit, the booms, the gaffle, the gaffs. There's a lot of spars, and they're all taken off. All the shrouds, all the steel wires, all these lines that you see there, kilometers of wires. We take them off to inspect them. It's not only for this voyage. We have to do that every 5 years very thoroughly, and of course we have the normal maintenance always going on. But this year we do the main survey of the rigging, and if we finish that, we'd be prepared for this long voyage that will take us all over the world. It's important that we do so, that we are prepared, because the ship has made very big voyages before. We have sailed a distance, I always joking, but it's actually not a joke. We sailed from here to the moon and back, and we're halfway up again, if you consider the distance. And that on a sailing ship that is, let's say, on walking pace normally. So we traveled a lot, and in order to do so, you have to make sure that your ship is well maintained, that she's fit for anything that can happen on the way, because we are on our own on many of these, let's say, remote places where we're going to. There's no shop to go to. There's no welder available. There's no mast maker you can ask something for, and there's certainly not a man who can splice steel wire. So this is what we prepare. Another thing is that, of course, like every year, we prepare the ship in other technical points, but that's, let's say, a normal issue going on. And at this very moment, we are already thinking of how to change the ship specifically for this voyage. Oh yeah, here Elvira shows a picture.
Sorry, I'm trying to find some photos that we can.
Yeah, good. This is the ship next to our office ship in Rotterdam. You can see that the topmast, the yards, the everything is already taken off. We are in the next week. We will be taking off the main masts. Anyway, we do all this work to be prepared for a big voyage and to make sure that the ship is something you can rely on. And another way of preparation is actually the voyage legs. I mean, once Stuart just told you so that I prepared this voyage. I changed the itinerary of Charles Darwin in order to be able to do it in 2 years instead of 5. And but now we went into the deep. We said, okay, if we're sailing from, let's say, place A to B, well, what will the weather be like? What kind of things can be expected for the people that are on board? And I tried to make a brief summary of that, and we already published that on our website. So next to the descriptions of each port and each place that we're going to visit, there's now also a description available of every leg that we are sailing. So together you get a very nice overview of everything that we will, well, we might meet during this long voyage. I think that is the basic thing. All these things are available from our website, but I wanted to mention that. I think that's about it for now, Stu.
Perfect.
Well, actually, last time there were many people here. You made quite a big announcement, and as I honestly lost the recording, perhaps you can do it again with your audience today.
It is. It's a bit of a strange order, because I already said so between the lines. If you are preparing for such a voyage, that means you.
Te lopen vast.
Has a lot of company. It is a matter of, okay, can we do it or not? Do we take the risk or not? And already I told Stu, and I will tell you now, we have decided to do it. No matter what it takes, we will do it. This is important, not only for you to know, but also for Stu, because in order to
And today we received a question from one of you present regarding this matter. So, well, that's answered as well now.
Okay, good.
That's amazing.
Stu,
well, thank you. Okay, well, on that wonderful news, let's give an overview of legs 17 to 24, which there's a few, literally just a handful of places available left on. So if anyone would like to come, yeah, please do contact immediately, and we'll sign you up. That's great. Okay, so I'll just share my screen again. Hopefully, can you see my screen again? It's always, yeah, beautiful. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this is in continuation from May and June. We did legs 1 to 8 and 9 to 16. The goal here is just to give a very little overview of the key locations. I mean, obviously, the point of coming on this voyage and the sailing and the voyage legs is the wonderful experience sailing aboard this incredible vessel. My presentation, obviously, my presentation focuses a little bit on the locations at the start and the end to give you an idea what you can see. For obvious reasons, my presentation doesn't focus so much on the sailing between the voyage legs because it's impossible to do that in advance and so forth, but it hopefully gives you a little bit of an overview of what you may see at the start and the end and along the way as well. So in our last session, we got to Easter Island. So today we're going from legs 17, so from Easter Island to Mangareva, all the way across to Sydney. And then in next month's session, we'll do the last 8 legs all the way back to Europe, including the voyage. So leg 17 from Easter Island. This is a really exciting leg. Obviously, we're sailing, everything is dependent upon the weather, the conditions, and safety and so forth. But we've planned to try and visit Easter Island, Pitcairn Island, which is located between Easter Island and Mangareva. So this leg starts at Easter Island, Rapa Nui, and ends in French Polynesia. The really great thing about this leg is it takes you between 2 of simply some of the greatest islands in the Pacific. So Easter Island, famous for its spectacular moai. There's about 1,000 of these incredible carvings on Easter Island made by the Rapa Nui. It takes you from Easter Island all the way across to French Polynesia, and it's obviously ideal for anyone that wants to have a relax at the end. French Polynesia has some of the best resorts in the world. So if you want to have an amazing sailing experience and end up in French Polynesia, leg 17 is a really good one. Well, we've specifically set the goal of trying to reach Pitcairn Island en route. I'm just going to talk quickly about Pitcairn. Again, everything's weather dependent, but if we have good weather, we have the opportunity then hopefully to land on Pitcairn for the day during the sailing leg. And I've been very lucky to visit Pitcairn already, filming a BBC series. So I can give a little overview of what Pitcairn has to offer. So it's one of the smallest and most remote inhabited islands in the world. It's only about 4 square miles in size, so it's very small, but it's absolutely packed with history and wildlife. It's one of the richest and most concentrated spots I know of for wildlife. As you may be aware, it's home to about 50 people, every single one of which, and descendants from the mutiny on the Bounty. We haven't got time to do the mutiny story, but you may be aware there was a Mel Gibson movie and several other movies, one with Clark Gable and several others earlier. There's 4, in fact, Hollywood films to date. And in a nutshell, the Bounty was taken over and brought to Pitcairn, where the mutineers hid out from the arm of the law. And they burnt the ship in Bounty Cove, which is right in front of this photo. And every year they burn a model of the Bounty, just meters from where the real ship was deliberately set fire. And then the mutineers hid away on Pitcairn Island, away from the arm of the law, for several decades before they were discovered to the rest of the world. Well, Pitcairn today, do you mind imagine, is a treasure trove of artifacts from the Bounty. There's several of the ship's anchors, many of the cannons. You can actually even swim down. They have a very simple dive operation on the island. I did this myself. You could swim down to the very wreck site and you'll see all of the ballast stones right there where the ship actually went down. So for anyone interested in history, Pitcairn is awesome, and you can actually meet the islanders, obviously, and hear their unique language, which is called Pitcairn, spelled with a K. And it's a mixture of Old English, sailor speak, a bit of Polynesian, and a bit of modern English, all mixed together. And it's a very romantic place. They still ring the bells on the island when they see a ship on the horizon. It's a very, very romantic place. So this will be an amazing stop during the voyage leg. And then I should just quickly mention the island itself is got some really interesting wildlife as well. From a giant tortoise called Mrs. Turpin that was dropped off by whalers about 100 years ago. Many beautiful seabirds like white terns and many other wonderful animals as well. It's a really, really great leg if you want to stop and have a little break exploring Pitcairn on the way over from Easter Island. So thoroughly recommend leg 17. Leg 18 continues from Mangrove, which I should have added is in French Polynesia. It's one of the Gambier Islands. You can actually catch flights from Tahiti across to Mangrove. So if you come for leg 17, you can depart, you can sail out from fly out, you can fly out from Mangrove easily. And likewise for this leg, you can fly in really easily too. You just fly to Tahiti, then fly across. So this leg, it's really about exploring the islands of French Polynesia. And over the course of, well, just approximately 2 weeks, we'll navigate through the beautiful islands and coral-rich seas across. And yeah, basically explore French Polynesia, reaching Tahiti, which is the end destination of this leg. Obviously, everything is weather permitting and time permitting, but the goal is, if we can, make some landings and explore a little bit, and see some of the beautiful islands of French Polynesia. Obviously reaching then Tahiti, which for hundreds of years, literally since the voyages of Captain Cook and William Bligh and others, was a really important victualling station, and it was basically the main port where many of these early voyages would come to. So for well over 200 years, spectacular tall ships have been visiting from, well, Cook went there to watch the transit of Venus. William Bligh went to Tahiti to collect breadfruit for the Bounty mission. Obviously, it's changed a lot since those years, but hopefully we'll have a wonderful experience with this one. Then when you disembark, you've got this beautiful tropical island to explore, and wonderful local cultures in Tahiti, from weaving and basketry to the fire dances and so forth to explore. And last but not least, it's got some of the best resorts in the world, so you can relax and enjoy after your 2-week sailing. You can have a nice experience in one of the most luxurious resorts in the world. And of course, snorkeling and diving as well. Leg 19 is a totally unique leg. There's no other leg like it along the global voyage we planned. It's a circular leg. So we start in Tahiti and end back in the same port. This is the only one which we planned like this. This leg absolutely filled up incredibly quickly, but if you are interested, we always have a waiting list for all of the legs. So even though this one's currently full, by all means do email and we'll add you to the waiting list if anyone cancels. And inevitably quite a few people change and so forth, so it's a possibility places may come available. This leg again is really exploring French Polynesia and the beautiful islands surrounding Tahiti. I won't repeat all of the slides from the previous leg 16, but leg 17, but it gives you an overview, of course. There's spectacular coralline islands and atolls and beautiful coral waters of Tahiti. And I should add, if anyone's coming on any of these specific legs, obviously bring snorkels and masks in case of visits ashore, because these waters are some of the most beautiful and coral rich in the world, and also home to the large numbers of terrestrial bird life as well, seabirds as well, such as these noddies here. Still to this day, particularly French Polynesia is famous for its pearls, and still to this very day, pearl divers still operate in many of the islands. So it may be possible to see the divers out in action, or at least buy some of their beautiful pearls that they collect across the archipelago today. And then, of course, when you disembark in Tahiti, you've got Tahiti to explore as well. Okay, so leg 20 starts back in Tahiti again and heads all the way over to Rarotonga in the Cook Islands. This is a really exciting leg, particularly Rarotonga. It's one of the less visited, particularly from Europe. A lot of Aussies and New Zealanders go there, but yeah, it's one of the jewels of the Pacific. It's often described as one of the Pacific's best kept secrets. So it's not thronging with masses, and it's got a real sense of local culture as well. It's a really great, really exciting location. From fire dancers and traditional fire dancers to the Polynesian mumus, the hot stone ovens. The Cook Islands in particular are known for their earth ovens and their stone ovens. So hopefully you'll be able to try some of their fish dishes. And again, like all of these Pacific legs, you've got the real advantage of having resorts, beautiful resorts at the start and the end. So you can come have a few days relaxing in Tahiti in a beautiful resort, undertake a sailing leg, the sailing leg, and then likewise again at the destination, have a few days. Rarotonga is known for its crystal clear waters and just beautiful Polynesian idyll. I mean, oh my goodness, I want to go now. The fire dances are really well known and really celebrated. They're really spectacular. So if you have a day or two at the end in Rarotonga, there's quite a few opportunities to see the local operators. And you can see them garamut drums, they're big hollow drums which they bang, and the traditional music they make also with Titan shells as well. Yeah, it's definitely worth exploring the island after the voyage leg and exploring some of these spectacular parts of Rarotonga. Voyage leg 21 continues from Rarotonga to Tonga. Tonga also is relatively less well known across the Pacific. It's the region's oldest monarchy. For 1,000 years, there's been a kingdom across not just Tonga itself, but also other islands. Although it shrunk in recent centuries, but anyway, it's the oldest monarchy of the Pacific, and the monarchy still plays an important role there to this day. It's really known for its humpbacks, and it's traditional, much more traditional. It's known as the true South Pacific, or what the South Pacific in other parts was like 20, 30 years ago. That said, there's flights in and out from the International Airport on Tonga. These are some of the King's compound. I believe this is the oldest stone structure in the Pacific, this ceremonial gateway as well. So it's well worth visiting and really interesting to see that ancient culture. It is well known for its humpbacks, its migratory humpbacks as well, and other cetaceans, but particularly humpbacks. It's really well known to be along their migration routes, and divers often go specifically to Tonga, specifically to dive with the humpbacks. So if that's something you're really interested in, there's lots of local operators that can organize both whale and dolphin spotting and whale and dolphin diving trips. So that's a big draw card for Tonga. The diver operators are responsibly managed. You have to stay a certain distance from the humpbacks, but humpbacks are so big, I don't think they really care, to be honest. They're huge. So yeah, that's a real draw card and a real highlight that Tonga is well known for. If you're interested in whales and dolphins, I think Tonga is definitely a leg that you might want to consider. And of course, reef diving as well. All of these Pacific islands have obviously great coral reefs fringing them, but yeah, this is definitely a well-known one. But yeah, do join for this leg. Leg 22 continues from Tonga to Fiji. Fiji obviously is very different from other parts of the Pacific, influence with Melanesian culture, akin to Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, and other islands nearby. So it's very different ethnically and culturally from much of the rest of Polynesia. Fiji is known for its so-called rainbow reefs, these incredibly colorful coral systems, and many of them are very in easy reach from the island shores. So it's really famous for these very colorful reefs, remote villages, and the real advantage is it's really easy to access, especially for people from Australia. Really cheap, easy flights to get across, but also for the rest of the world as well. So it's got really good logistics in and out, and of course, great resorts as well. If you choose to join for this leg, you'd start in Tonga and then sail to Fiji. When you arrive, obviously, then you've got time to explore the islands as well and see the remote villages and the traditional customs of the Fijian. And again, I love Melanesia. I spend a lot of my life in Papua New Guinea, and I think the cultural difference between Melanesia in Fiji and Polynesia in Tonga and other islands will really interest you. It's a big difference. So you'll see some of the amazing cultures across Fiji, from weaving as well. Lots of endemic animals as well. Fiji is very different from many of the other coralline islands of the Pacific. This is a large island of volcanic origin, and it's a very old one with many endemic animals, including this Fijian iguana and many bird species. So it'd be really interesting to explore and see. should add, Darwin didn't actually go to Fiji. We added this as a bonus location on our voyage. We couldn't sail past beautiful Fiji and some of the other Polynesian islands like Easter Island. Darwin also didn't go to Easter Island, but it would sort of be a crime not to visit as we pass by. Fiji, I say, is really known for its rainbow reefs, its particularly colourful reefs, filled with beautiful reef fish, triggerfish and parrotfish to fusiliers and lots of others. So those interested in snorkeling and diving, definitely, and Fiji is full of dive operators and snorkelers. So it's a really good family-friendly destination. So if you're doing this voyage leg and want your family to then join you, Fiji is a brilliant one in that regard. And again, great resorts and luxury, a little bit of luxury at the end as well. Leg 23 sails from Fiji over to New Zealand to the beautiful Bay of Islands. And this will be a really interesting leg, sailing squarely out of the tropics and subtropics to the temperate world. So this will be a really interesting leg, making that transition across. And then obviously over in Bay of Islands, you can then explore the fascinating history and Maori culture that New Zealand has to offer, the ancient Karri forests. And then the Bay of Islands themselves is known for these beautiful emerald green islands, whales, dolphins, seals, and many seabirds. And then you've got a launch pad to explore New Zealand's North Island. So definitely worth considering this leg. And there's a few places left on this one as well. Most of the other Pacific legs are full or very, very nearly full. There's definitely some places left on this. So if you do want to do this one, you can sign up now. The Bay of Islands itself obviously is one of the main destinations in New Zealand that Captain Cook chartered and many other explorers visited and chartered. So this is your chance to visit. Full of beautiful island. And this is one of the photos that Gerben very kindly shared from Oosterschelde's previous global voyages. So this is the beautiful ship in the Bay of Islands. It's very, very famous for its whales and dolphins. And obviously, no guarantees it's wildlife, but with a bit of luck, we should hopefully see some cetaceans, some whales and dolphins as well, including, I believe these are minkies as well, feeding in the Bay of Islands. So we may well see those. And then, of course, the New Zealand fur seals. And then you're in a perfect place to explore the rest of New Zealand at the end of this leg. And the last one for today is leg 24, going from Auckland. And I deliberately say Auckland, not the Bay of Islands, as the vessel, we've scheduled maintenance, a few little time for maintenance. So we're sailing from Auckland for this leg, not the Bay of Islands, across to Sydney. So this is a really great leg for those especially interested in adventurous sailing. And this involves sailing across the Tasman Sea, one of the great ocean crossings of the world, sailing right the way through the heads into spectacular Sydney. And then obviously when you're there, you've got the opportunity to explore Sydney and New South Wales from the historic rocks which captivated Darwin, all the way up to the Blue Mountains and the beautiful eucalyptus covered hills and so forth of the Blue Mountains, where Darwin actually went on muleback, went on a mule all the way up there. And obviously your destination needs no explanation. Sydney, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. The crossing from New Zealand is really notorious and it's a sort of a badge of honor, particularly amongst Aussie sailors. So if you're interested in really interesting sailing conditions, this is a good leg for you, sailing from New Zealand all the way across the Tasman Sea, across to Sydney. And then obviously the moment when we reach beautiful Sydney, I think will be a moment of real pride for everyone on board. So it'll be a real sense of accomplishment getting from all the way across from Auckland across. And here's likewise one of the photos of one of the previous voyages. So you can imagine that sense of achievement after navigating across the Tasman Sea. And this is then Darling Harbour. So obviously we're still determining where the vessel will be based during our voyage, but anywhere in Sydney gives you great access to the city itself. Darling Harbour is really close then to Circular Quays. It's about 15-minute walk, 20-minute walk over to Circular Quays and the Opera House and so forth. So really, really worth exploring and really, really worth seeing. And I'd say that gives you perfect launch pad then for the Blue Mountains and beyond. To the Three Sisters and obviously some of the iconic wildlife. So next month we've got the last 8 legs, to provide an overview of the last 8 legs. The joining details are Darwin200 or DutchTourship.com. And if you send emails, you'll hear from the wonderful Matthias and the wonderful Elvira, or myself as well, to help answer any questions. So I hope that gives some inspiration about what those 8 voyage legs have to offer. And obviously there's so much more which we can't show in a presentation. The day-to-day activities, the aboard the ship, the experience sailing this incredibly important and historic vessel, to the moon, the sun, the birds, the animals, the dolphins and the bow wave. There's those really important sailing experiences that we can't show really in a presentation for obvious reasons. So hopefully this voyage offers so many opportunities to be part of a really great adventure around the world, and we really, really hope you can join one or more of these legs and be part of this global voyage. So I'll stop sharing my screen and hand back.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart.
Pleasure.
We received a few, I don't know if there are already questions from the group. You can either put them in the chat box or wave your hand, but I also have a few questions that were sent in by email earlier. I think one of the questions is the crew generally the same for the entire voyage, or is there a planned rotation? Maybe it's a good question for Matthias to answer that.
No. Our crew will switch each other off. Of course, they want to go home, and it is healthier for them. Well, as well as for, of course, they will not be on board for 18 months. Usually, they are on board for 2.5 maximum, a bit depending on easy locations to switch. I mean, flying from most of our crew is Dutch or is based in Europe, so it's easier to fly to Sydney than to Tonga. So it's a bit around that. But no one will be on board for the whole voyage.
Yeah, it's also, we get a lot of questions from our guests that also request, for instance, several legs in a row, and we have a maximum because it's even the crew who's professional, who is used to being on board, we have to give them some time off to get a new perspective and to get a bit more energy again, and then come back full with energy to do another period on board. And the same goes for our guests. If you really want to appreciate the trip, it's best also to go back a bit, do something else, and then come back on board. So and that's for good reason. Stuart, will you be on board most of the voyage or only on certain legs?
Oh, thanks. Well, that's a good question. So myself and the Darwin200 team, we've reserved 2 places on the entire leg throughout. Myself and a combination of other Darwin200 staff will be on throughout the entire voyage. Myself will be on some legs, then in ports, then back on. So I thoroughly look forward to being on board with many of you sailing aboard on various of the different legs. So roughly one on, one off, one on, one off. So I can coordinate the activities that we've got in each of the ports. I should also say that if anyone, so in addition to our monthly presentations, as Elvira might mention, we've got the community pages. And if anyone has any specific questions about the ports that we're going to be going to, we've already got travel information ready on the community pages prepared. But I'm also going to be visiting every single one of the ports over January, February, March, and early April. So if anyone has any questions or needs any specific information answering, then I'm compiling a list to address in each port. I'm doing this mainly to partner with those NGOs that we're going to be working with. So yes, to answer Elvira's question, I won't be on the entire voyage from start to finish, but on legs, various legs jumping over each other between ports and legs with other Darwin200 staff to make the project activities on board and then in the ports possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Stuart.
Cheers.
Yeah, and I think the next question is in the same line. The question is if it's already known in advance who will be the captain on board. Yes, we will know that in advance. We are now making sort of a schedule, but also it's difficult for 2 years in advance. But of course, closer to your trip, you could always send us an email to check who will be on board. So that's no problem at all. Let's see the next question. If we are doing on some legs, we mentioned that we will make stops along the way. Well, the person who asks says they're of course variable and not set. But in general, how much time does the process of stopping and departing actually involve, and how much time will we actually be ashore, generally speaking? Maybe it's a question for Gerben. Oh, you're still on mute.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, that's exactly why I prepared this voyage descriptions. They are now you can find them on our website. If you look at there, you click on the voyage that you that is the one that you're taking or the one you're thinking of. You can read more or less what to expect on that specific leg. In general, it's all ocean legs, as you understand. So in general, we spend most of the time on the ship, on the water. And if you want to grab the chance to see something of, well, any port of destination or port of arrival, you should add some days or weeks or months to that sailing trip in order to do so. We are, as Stuart explained, in these ports to host the Darwin leaders and to do our scientific program. So after arrival in the port, we may have one day, perhaps two, depending on the time that we spend sailing. But then you will leave the ship and the other group come up. But again, you can read every leg specifically on our website.
And there's a question following that. If we're making a stop, will there be a custom clearing in every port or stop that we make?
Yes, that's why it is difficult to estimate. Maybe some countries are not so difficult. We haven't been in all these countries that we're visiting. The past years were very, very difficult because of this corona. We don't know how that will develop in the coming years. So we can't say, but generally spoken, yes, always when you come in a country, you have to clear in, you have to get clearance. So this process is quite time consuming because they want to investigate it, they want to see that. And so before you're cleared, you have to do. But there are some legs where that is not so difficult. For example, the leg to the Galapagos, we go there. Once we cleared in, we have a sailing permit to visit some other spots on these islands. So once you are in the country and cleared, then you can sail to the other places. So it depends very much from place to place. But yes, on every stop, we have to get clearance and it will take some time. So that's why we can't make too many, because sailing into a harbor, getting all the clearance and then out again, actually that consumes quite a bit of time.
And do we get to go to any remote areas, or is it only to specific cities or ports, or can it be that we will drop anchor, I don't know, somewhere?
It also depends on the country. And for example, if you take England, you can enter in most ports. In the Netherlands, there is only 4 ports where you can have clearance. So you have to enter one of those ports. Same on Cape Verde, for example. There's 3 of the 9 islands where you can have clearance. The other ones you can't. So you have to first go to one of those, and then you have clearance to visit the others. So that depends very much on the country and the rules that they have. Yeah. Okay.
Then there was a question about beverages and money needed on board. If there are any other expenses that you have to take into account? Who wants to answer that? Maybe Matthias?
Well, we will make sure the ship will be fully loaded with all kind of beverages. You can pay them in euros, dollars, or when we are longer in a particular country, you can pay them in that currency. We can also invoice you, of course, that's also not a problem. And well, actually but we will of course, if possible, let you know in advance if we are planning on particular stops, and if we already know in advance that a particular landing, for example, in the Galapagos Islands, would cost something, then, well, of course, you have to take that with you as well.
Yeah, if it's for excursions on land, that's of course extra, but we will inform you about that possibility. Yeah. Then you can decide if you want to join. Gerben wants to add something.
Yeah, well, I didn't understand the question completely, but we are not a floating pub. We're not trying to squeeze you out when you're on board. You'll be well fed. You have everything to drink, and water, tea, milk, whatever you want to drink. It's only the bar drinks that you have to purchase on board, and so that's the
coffee, tea, and water are included. Yeah. Then a question, I think, for Stuart. Someone added his name to the Darwin200 website about the Darwin Mentor Program, but did not get a reply yet. I know why, but maybe you can tell yourself.
So we're literally about to relaunch the site at the end of September, specifically concerning Darwin mentors. So what we're wanting to do is find a select group of one or two mentors for each of the ports. So if you are interested, please do sign up. We're going to be selecting those mentors in the second quarter of 2023. So basically from next April onwards, once they get back from the ports. But we're relaunching the site with detailed information about the mentor program. Please do sign up. And if it's something that you're interested in, we would love you to apply to be part of this. What we're looking for with the mentors is basically people with some background experience, either in conservation or wildlife or a relevant area in academia, to basically guide the Darwin200 leader projects. So we're already partnering them with NGOs and paying the NGOs to basically, in essence, mentor them and guide them and direct their studies of the conservation work being taken. But we ideally would like one or two overriding people to sort of be like an umbrella over their projects and just give advice while they're undertaking their different activities. So if you can stay tuned for just a couple more weeks, we'll have the website launched towards the end of September, and I can give a detailed overview of that on the October the 1st Q&A session when we speak in a month's time. Great. So please do sign up if you're interested in being a mentor in the ports.
And if you're interested and you have signed up, is it already important that they also give additional information about why they are interested, or is that the next step? Is that something?
That's the next step. So we're going to do a call out specifically for that. So yeah, that's the next step. Thanks.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I know the guests on the leg do not stay in port while the ship is in port, but do the Darwin mentors stay on the ship in port if they are guiding the Darwin leaders?
Yes, that's right. So they're going to be on board for approximately a week with the each group of Darwin leaders. So yes, that's exactly right.
Okay. I'm just going to read it out loud because it makes for the classroom engagement portion of the program and for the two trial programs in the past couple summers, the classrooms shown appear to be relatively young students. What are the target grades for the classroom involvement? I would be happy to provide information to my local schools about getting involved with the Darwin200 project, but want to make sure I speak with teachers of the appropriate age group.
Okay, that's a really good question. So there's a bit of a backstory on this. So during the test voyages, we basically aimed for younger children through an amazing group called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, run by an absolutely incredible person, Joe Grabowski. We did target younger groups Also because my other life, as well as Darwin200, is creating tens of thousands of resource boxes for students. We've created about 600 tons of them to date and sent them out to schools. So we've got about 20,000 schools on our mailing lists for the Hansen. It's called the Hansen Box Project. You can see www.hansenbox.org. So during the test voyages, we actually did aim those live events mainly for younger children because we already had that network and that existing, well, tens of thousands of schools in the UK and particularly in UK and Australia that we've been sending resource boxes to now for about 4 years. During the Global Voyage, we've got a much bigger range of activities. Basically, every single week we've got a nature hour documentary, a live session with a different conservationist, and a Q&A session with that conservationist, multiple experiments with prizes and competitions and activities, each with prizes, and a package of other different activities. And these will be for a much broader range of students. Obviously, it's impossible to know how they're going to do in advance, but my hope is that each of the 100 events will reach at least 1 million students, which might sound a lot, but that's easily doable. We already do that anyway with the resource boxes. We sent out 20,000 last year alone to schools, each school, with 500 to 1,000 students in already. So I'm sure we can reach those goals. That's our plan. And we're working with several big NGO partners to execute those world's most exciting classroom activities. So to answer your question, the ones that we're preparing for the Global Voyage will be a much larger range of schools, including older students. We've got 10 test ones coming up. These will be much more simple than the ones we're doing during the Global Voyage. But we've got 10 test ones coming up starting in late September. So if you can stay tuned on that, I'll email details out. And please do send them to your schools, especially if they're interested in nature and so forth. There's some really great competitions and activities that we're running during these 10 test ones over the coming autumn and winter. So stay tuned for those.
Thank you. There is a question about if participants will be eligible for marine flight tickets. I did some research today to find that out. It depends a little bit on the airline. Most of the airlines require you to have a monsterboekje, a Siemens book. Sorry, I had to think about the English name. So if you have that, and you have a letter from us, or probably confirmation that you'll be sailing with us, you would be able to get a marine flight ticket. If you don't have that, you're not eligible, and then you would have to buy a regular flight ticket. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. There was a question in the chat regarding packing lists. If we will provide any specific or lack specific packing lists. Gerben maybe, or Matthias, I can also do it.
Oh, it's okay. We have a general packing list. Most of these things are always good because at sea it's always a bit chillier than on land. So you always need to have something watertight, and all these things are on the general packing list. But through the community pages that we have set up for all the participants, we can easily share a more detailed, let's say, addition to the general packing list. Like, okay, on this leg, you really need to have whatever, an extra pair of trousers or so, but or one less if it's very hot. But so we can do that, yes.
Yeah, and also in the final joining instructions, usually we have a bit of extra information regarding that. And if you have any doubts or want to check, email or give us a call, no problem at all. And yes, we will post a link to the pages we are referencing. That is not a problem at all. Do we already know in Galapagos where the leg start will be, on which islands? I know we have done a bit of, or Gerben has done a little bit of research, but I'm not sure if that's already decided.
Sorry, I missed part of it. My internet connection is not really stable.
If we already know the exact island or place where we will start the Galapagos to Easter Island leg.
From Galapagos to Easter Island, yes, we know the exact place, and that's in the. I think it's called Wreck Bay. I can't remember the Spanish name, but it's called Wreck Bay, and that is the main settlement actually on the Galapagos, where we get clearance as well. So that's where we come in the country, and we are allowed to visit a few other places. We come back to that place, and there's where we also will start the next leg. So that's in the description of the voyage already.
Thank you. Bernard is asking, will we join in the educational program for the youth? Stuart.
Well, thank you. You're very, very welcome to be part of it. So again, to be clear, this is talking concerning the world's most exciting classroom activities. We would love, for each event that we take place, we'd love people from the previous voyage leg to beam in and give an overview of their experiences on board and so forth. So yes, absolutely. Again, also, if you'd like to be a mentor specifically, we of course, there's a huge range of activities that mentors will be undertaking, and definitely being part of the world's most exciting classrooms will be part of that. In each event, we're going to be updating what the Darwin leaders are doing, what the previous group of the Darwin leaders accomplished, and the mentors absolutely could spearhead that and be part of that process. So yes, a big yes to those elements, but especially the mentorship program. So if you would like to be part of that, please do sign up for information.
Thank you. Gerben, will the
Elvira?
Oh, yeah.
There's a few people waving their hands, so maybe we can first address them. And
sure.
then I see Carter already a few times. You didn't?
No.
So let's do that, and then we can go on with the written ones, or maybe, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Carter, then. Hi, Carter. In real life.
Hi, how are you? More questions from Carter. First one's for Gerben, actually. I'm just wondering if you've been to Pitcairn Island, and if so, how does it compare to landing at Tristan da Cunha? Is that easier, or is that harder, or what are the chances, in other words? And I know Tristan can be really tough to get to. Yes,
well, that goes for many of the islands in the Pacific as well. The Pacific is a huge mass of water. It's incredible big, and especially in the southern part, if you go to Easter Island, Pitcairn, Mangareva, you are actually quite exposed to swell that comes traveling from the southern oceans. So if there is a storm somewhere far south, these big waves, they can actually roll in quite some thousands of miles, and then even if there is a little wind or nice conditions, you can have big swell. And swell is not so bad on the ocean. It's just a big wave, but it's also a very long wave if it's traveling that fast. So the ship goes up and down again in some kind of nice rhythm. But as soon as such a swell, such a wave comes close to undeeper waters, then it builds up, and then you get started. And that's why in Hawaii you have these big breakers where everybody starts to surf and stuff like that. So if we have this kind of conditions, then most of these islands will be difficult to land. Of course, they are not all the same, but Tristan is infamous for being a bad place to land. Pitcairn is also infamous. You need to have good conditions, and you always need to have a crew on the ship to be able to move to another place. So even if you go on land, we always make sure that there is a crew on board the ship that is able to navigate the ship to another anchorage if that's better for changing circumstances. But we will do what we can. And you must also understand that, for example, Tristan, the people like you to come there. I mean, these people, they live in such remote areas. They welcome visitors in general. So if the conditions are not good at a certain moment, they will direct you to another place and say, hey, maybe it's better over there, or we will try to pick you up with our launch because we know exactly the way. So they will try to help us achieving what we want. But there is always on these small remote islands a possibility that the conditions are not good, and then the next day are still not good, and then you have to decide, okay, do we wait longer or do we move on? That's how it is.
I had another question. It's sort of I'm thinking about budgeting lately. 50% is due in January and then 50% later. Where does the 500 euros that we've already paid come in? Do we take that off the first? So we just pay 500 less on okay.
Yes.
And actually one more thing, as far as for Stuart, I wouldn't mind being a mentor, but I have no experience in conservation. Does that make a difference, or?
No, that's fine. So it's not necessarily, the experience we're looking for isn't necessarily conservation related. It's more a management role of these young people. So the Darwin leaders, the people that we're selecting for these roles are not normal people. They've done incredible things already. They're passionate, they're unbelievably driven and passionate. These really are elite young people to do these amazing projects. So we just want basically an overarching set of eyes, making sure that what they're doing is safe, what they're doing is responsible. I know myself at those ages, I'd be climbing cliffs and trying to, survey the tops of trees in canopies. And so it's that role. So we don't necessarily need a background in conservation. We're looking for responsible adults, ideally with an academic background, but not necessarily. So yeah, please do sign up if that's something you're interested in. If I may, I'll just really quickly back on the Pitcairn subject. Gerben, of course, is absolutely right concerning the swell and the conditions. The Pitcairn Islanders have two big metal launchers, which they name. They know them almost as people. They're called Tin and Tub, and they bounce through the waves out from the island. And then there's a special haulage system where they bring them back up into a shed at the cove. Then you climb up. It's called the Hill of Difficulty. This almost sheer, like very, very steep road, which I guess historically was really, really hard. So of course Gerben's absolutely right, but as he also mentioned, they're very passionate to welcome visitors ashore. It's one of their few income streams really to the island. So they're very welcoming. And
the reason I asked about the mentor is I've got a week in Mangareva, so I'm open to helping out.
Yes, absolutely. And Mangareva, absolutely, of course. Just in case anyone else is in the same boat, as it were, on that subject, Mangareva is a really interesting destination. Again, I've been there myself personally as well. So aside from the mentorship program and the activities that we're going to be doing there, there's actually quite a lot to see around the lagoon and so forth. Just be aware that it has very limited access for cash. It's very, to put it politely, it's not very developed in the sense of infrastructure and I remember particularly cash. So just bring what you need basically in advance with you. But there's a couple of little resorts and a couple of little lodges near Mangareva Port, which you can stay at as well. Just book ahead in time, because it hasn't got a lot of, Mangareva has not got a lot of accommodation places. So just book that in advance. Cool. Okay. Any other questions at all?
Is someone waving? I don't
No.
That because I have a few questions in the chat. Who will be operating the ship? Only the crew or also the guests? Gerben?
Yes, what we do, of course, there is a difference in responsibilities. If I'm the captain, I'm the captain. That means at the end, I'm responsible for the ship and for all of the people on board. And that means that the final decisions are taken by the captain. And that's quite normal on the ship. That doesn't mean that I don't ask things, or that I don't invite people to give their opinion, and that's how it works on the sailing ship. We have a hierarchic system where the captain is in command and it goes down. But also the crew on board, they will invite everybody to help them with everything they do. Because we think it is actually very nice to be involved in the sailing of the ship, in the navigation, if you want to climb the rigging, you can do so. If you want to help for maintenance, if you have special skills, of course, we'd be happy you to help. And even if you don't have the special skills but want to develop them, then you're also happy to work together with us. So we actually do not tell you that you should do something, but we will kindly invite you to do it together with us. And by the time we arrive somewhere, we're all a little bit a sailor. So that's the idea.
How many guest crew do we have on each leg? And how much permanent crew?
We have a permanent crew of about 7 persons, generally, sometimes one more if we need to, special areas, but normally 7. And we have a maximum of 24 other persons on board. And these other persons will be partly the team of Stu, will be 1 or 2 people for video things.
Crew.
And that will be you as participant, and we all together sail that boat, and we bring her from A to B, from one beautiful island to another even more beautiful place, and we do that together. As I say, actually we can't do it alone. If you hoist a sail on that ship, that's hard work. If you have to do that, so we do it all together. We teach you how to steer a ship like that, and we teach you how to use the stars or the sun or whatever to steer by, and then we ask you to do so, to help us out. Otherwise, there's be continuously one of us on the wheel, which is not well, that's not handy. We should share that. So yeah.
Thank you. A question about the payment process. The third party was not so straightforward to use. I think it's Wise. Is that Jeff? I think you're requesting that. If there's another way to do a credit card payment is mainly the question. There is, but they all charge a certain amount or a percentage. So we could also do it not using Wise, but Stripe. You can. I will put that in the chat later on. But there's always an extra amount that they will charge you. So that's good to know. Yeah.
It's not the actual charge from Wise, it's the fact that it was treated as a cash transfer from the bank and the bank charges.
And did you, so you didn't, using Wise, you could not pay with a credit card? Or you did?
I paid with a credit card that was supposed to be transaction free, a small amount to Wise, which I didn't mind, but then I got hit with 3% or something from the credit card, well, from the bank as a cash transaction. And again, for the deposit, it's not an issue, but for the whole session, it would be significant.
Will be a significant amount. I will send you, if it's okay, the payment structure through Stripe. It gives a bit of more insight beforehand. Then you can decide what you want to do.
Okay.
Can you send that to all of us?
Sure. Is it okay if I put it in the community page? Because it's a good way to get you all in there. You all have invitations. And if you didn't get an invitation yet, send us an email, but I will put it in the community page tomorrow, if that's okay.
Beautiful.
I see someone saying I only had to pay a small fee on Wise, and that is my experience as well. But maybe it was because of the credit card payment. I will look into that. Okay. Any more questions? Anyone waving at me that I didn't see yet? Okay. Well, then it's, Jeff, yes.
There was a question about gear. It's possible that there could be some inclement weather. I have sailing gear, but it's not sort of ocean going. If we're supposed to be part of the crew, is that adequate, or will there be sort of ocean gear on board?
Gerben will answer.
Yeah, we don't carry ocean gear for all kind of and sizes of people. That's impossible. But in general, we often see people come on board much better dressed than the crew. And they are only for 2 weeks there, and the crew is there for a year or two. So in general, you don't need to have very heavy or expensive equipment, except for a few legs. I mean, if you're going around Cape Horn, you better have some good clothes and some good boots and stuff like that. And that is exactly what we want to share on the community pages, and also in the last Let's Voyage description. Like, for this leg, this is the kind of weather you can expect. So this is what you should bring. I mean, on some legs you should have a screen protector, how you say that, and other legs you better have a hat or something. So we will share that. There's also another thing, maybe it's not really, but if you have, for example, simple gum boots that you work and you don't want to take them home, we can also share that through the community pages. And I mean, somebody else might want to use them or buy them or whatever, trade them, who's next to you on the ship. So we can also do that through these community pages. Like if you have size 10 boots and you leave them on board for somebody else with size 10, that could work out fine, and reduces the weight that we're carrying over the world.
Yeah, I think mainly it's important to have watertight gear that's a bit sturdy. It doesn't have to be a very expensive sailing outfit, but a sturdy outer layer that is watertight is perfect. Okay. I think this is time to say goodbye then, and hopefully we'll see you at the next meeting. We decided, oh, maybe it's good to add, we decided
Sorry, just one more.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I had any invite to previous meetings, and I'm only on leg 1. So is there a link to the information that Stuart gave on earlier legs?
Absolutely. So it's all, if you go to Darwin200.com/info, recordings of all of the previous recording events are there. We're also on YouTube. If you look on the Darwin200 YouTube channel, they're all on there as well. But yeah, recordings of the past ones, and of course this one we'll put up. It takes a day or two just because we have to edit like the start and the finish of the video, but recordings of all of them are on Darwin200.com/info, and we email out the link every month as well. I'll make sure you personally get it as well. But that information, it will also be on the /info page. So just go to Darwin200/info, INFO, and it's all there. It's all good.
Okay.
Perfect.
We'll be doing the next one in 1 month on the 1st of October. You'll get an invitation and hope to see you then again.
And just to echo Elvira's point, do check out the community pages. We've got a lot more content that's going live, but we prepared a few weeks ago little overviews of each destination and each leg, including the temperature conditions and so forth. So that will help provide a little bit of basic information about each of those parts of the voyage and what to expect. And as mentioned, I'm personally going to every single one of the ports over January, February, March, and April to set up the logistics with the NGO partners. So if there's anything you also need answering or any questions from those ports, then of course I'll do my very best to help on the ground over January, February, March, April next year, the 2023. Cool. Wonderful. Well, a huge thank you everyone for taking part and joining tonight. Thank you so much, and we really look forward to seeing you aboard. So on behalf of all of us, a huge thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Lovely to speak to you all.